And we are live. Welcome on your TVs there in Texas and Louisiana. We are on the Smart Money Culture TV network, as well as joining around the world as we stream on our favorite platform, Twitter, X, as we stream on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and the rest. The markets are in a complete meltdown. And we have a great show for you today. We have the great President Vitt. President Vitt of Lieberland is joining the show shortly. As well, we have let's see here. As well, we have Wee Zhu, the CEO of Coins.ph and Coins.xyz. So, and then, of course, we have the great Matt Dixon. Matt Dixon will join. A lot to talk about today. We have protests going on around the world, really. You're either in a protest or you're in a war. There is really not much in between that. Well, I suppose there's a lot in between that, right? But the protests continue to intensify. There's a lot that goes into these protests, right? Different. There are different things that go into those protests. They say that the biggest part is, of course, protesting the war in Israel, but there's really a lot of pushback that goes there. We have an amazing event over the next couple of days. I will be on location with our friends we had on yesterday as well. We had Gerard Daché. And Gerard is, of course, the head of the Government Blockchain Association. He's done an amazing job putting that together. And it was great to have him on. He's a great man. And we're working closely with them. If you want to register for that, there is a discount code. Use Impact Money as the discount code. And you'll get a nice discount there. We will be together with President Vitt there at the event. President Vitt and I have been friends for years now. As a matter of fact, when he came to Washington, D.C., he was speaking at our conference years ago, the Washington Elite AI Blockchain Summit, and he was got Lieberland recognized by the Libertarian Party during that visit. So we're always very happy to have him on. He is a bit jet lagged and it is early, but he messaged me this morning. And so I just sent him the link. So we are expecting him. Markets just continue to melt down. Now, this doesn't mean that they're not going to bounce hard. Okay. Everyone, of course, is expecting for the Fed to come out hawkish, okay? And so the markets, when that happens, the markets, of course, they get ready for them, okay? Nobody wants to be caught with their pants down, as they say. So you'll have, if they think that the Fed is going to be hawkish, and of course the Federal Reserve is a privately held central bank that controls most of the Western world. And but everybody's expecting that to happen. So as long as they're expecting that to happen, of course, they're going to bring their money out of the markets. We saw one of the biggest outflows from the ETFs, I think, in a 1 day period yesterday. Okay, 100 and something million flowed out. People want to be able to pull their money out and then put it back in. And a lot of times you'll have as well big spikes. So as Chairman Powell comes out, the Fed chair, and he talks, those hours before and after, you can see major swings up and down. So don't get caught in a leverage trade. Okay. Even if you're crying about it right now, protect yourself if you're worried about that capital, because we could see some major moves as we move up there. He is expected to take a hawkish tone, meaning I don't think so much that he's going to raise rates, but he's going to talk hawkish. He's going to talk hard about it. And that tightening of the money, you can see today, oil is even down. Oil is almost at $80. And we'll talk more about that in a bit with Matt Dixon. I have with me here, I see him, the president of Lieberland, my friend, Vitt Jedlicka, just stepped into the backstage. Let's add him on here.
Hello.
President Fit, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Great to see you, Bruce. It's a bit early for me, but I managed to join you and I'm happy for it.
That's awesome. Well, I know it's a bit early. Actually, so we've been doing this 6 a.m. show. We're on TV right now in Texas, in Louisiana. It's actually 5 a.m. there. We got picked up by this news channel or this TV station about. There we go. We got picked up by this TV station about 4 or 5 months ago, and we've been doing this show every morning. So now I'm used to it, right? I'm on my second cup of coffee. I got all the news together and put together, but it's great to see it. And I know you're probably jet lagged too, right? You just flew in?
Yeah, we just flew in, but it's not too bad. For me, it's like 12 o'clock European time right now.
Exactly. I usually have my brother David here as well, and for David, he's in Portugal right now, and that's 11 a.m. I'm like, man, that's easy for you guys. It's easy. But I've gotten used to it. When I set it up, I said, look, let me go ahead and put something together that I can do before I take the kids to school, make sure it's done, and we get the news out there. So a lot of exciting things. President Vitt and I met in Dubai years ago. We have been big proponents of Liberland, Liberlanders ourselves as we move this forward. So tell us a little bit about how things are going and what brought you here to the capital of the United States.
Well, like super exciting things are happening. Like we are literally building the main building for the Liberlanders in the city center, which is something unheard of. I'm a little bit surprised, like we had like millions of media when we were driving around Liberland, but when we are actually building the capital of the Liberland, we have just a couple documentary guys, but I think it's going to come in like probably a week or two. I think the world will again be full of news about the Liberland building its the mayor's house or the presidential palace inside of the Liberland, and it's a nice brick building, 2 stories high. It's pretty exciting that it's happening, and at the same time, we actually have the first actions by the elected Congress, which is very cool because the whole Congress is running on blockchain. So we are the first ever a nation state government with physical territory that is running itself on blockchain. And the blockchain is not the most important. The most important is the element of freedom. We tried our best to integrate the best ideas from existing constitutions into a system of governance that would limit the freedoms as little as possible while actually still building a regular nation state. So in Liberland, very small territory, 7 square kilometers between Croatia and Serbia. Yet I think we are literally on the way to become the powerhouse of Europe.
Well, that's well. There you go, President Fit, with the bold statement there. And we got a message here. Good day to you, Dr. Oleg, as well. I always appreciate you joining in the discussion. So this is really exciting. I mean, it's been a long time coming. I always tell people it takes 10 years. It takes 10 years to do stuff. And I think that's about as long you've been working on this. And we're getting some buildings. And guys, we've had these buildings torn down. We've been thrown out, right? You've really been there. But I mean, to actually have some buildings that are coming on, and you've been working in these different United Nations and the European Union and all these places. But that just must feel amazing. It must feel amazing.
Well, it does. Of course, it's very satisfactory. And I was not expecting that we would have access to Liberland for another, let's say, 2 years. And then I was very surprised that in the summer last year, on 6th of September, basically 50 people were able to go in to Liberland without any problem. And since then, we have a permanent population. So we are fulfilling all the Montevideo criteria. We are not on territory of any other country. We're gaining more and more control over the territory. We have very well-defined borders. We have government now, and we are able to have diplomatic relations. That's why I'm quite excited that next time I'm coming to United States, and by the way, I'm here right now. I'm in Miami, heading to Washington, D.C. very soon for a major event on Friday. So if somebody wanted to learn more about Liberland, in our office in Washington, D.C., the Pierce Lofts, we are actually having a major party this Friday. But I'm going to come again. I'm coming for the Freedom Festival in Las Vegas in July, and I will meet there, for example, with Javier Milei, who is a big proponent of Liberland for more than, I think, 6 years. He's been talking about Liberland, and now he became the president of Argentina, right? So you can see that the idea is very strong, and that our supporters are slowly also becoming presidents in other countries. So, in a sense, we can kind of joke about it, but yes, Liberland is kind of becoming a global power hub for these ideas. That the time of these ideas simply already came.
The time of these ideas is here. It's already come. And I couldn't agree more. We see this tightening of censorship, of taking freedoms away. I mean, here in the United States, the quote unquote land of the free. I don't know if you went out in Miami last night, but you can't even go have a cup of coffee or a beer on the strip without having multiple police cars and police presence all over the place. We have lost our way. And and that's why I latched on immediately to what you were doing with Lieberland all those years ago. I initially saw an interview of President Witt on the TV, and then when one of my friends said, "Hey, I want to introduce you to the president," I said, "Wait a minute, that really exists? How cool!" It's a new nation. And our friend Marcosi, who you and I both know, I'm sure, from Dubai, is commenting, "Love the Ron Paul background. No army can stop a great idea," and that's absolutely correct. And we've done quite a few things, so it's an amazing thing. I know we have a wonderful reception as well. I'm really looking forward to it. My wife doesn't get to do many things with me as well. It's right here in DC, so she plans to come. I don't know if you've ever met my wife, so I'm excited to introduce you. I think maybe you have. But really looking forward to that. So you're building the building on there. You're traveling around, as I always call President Witt, the happy diplomat. You're going around, and a lot of people would have gotten upset, or they would have maybe started a war, or they would have done all these other crazy things that world leaders do. And President Witt has just been constantly working behind the scenes and in front as a diplomat to push Lieberland forward. How many, tell us a little bit about the makeup. How many people have applied? How many people are citizens? How is that coming along?
We've got 740,000 people that applied, so it's a nice city already in that sense. So we're bigger than Malta or Iceland in terms of population. So even kind of a smaller mid-sized nation by those numbers. And we consider all of these people nationals of Liberland. But then the citizens, we only have around 1,000, I would say 200 citizens, and around 4,500 e-residents, which those are the people that are integral part of the system. They have substantially contributed to the well-being of Liberland. So we're growing that number every day by 1 or 2 citizens and maybe 20, 30 e-residents. Right now, it's quite easy to become e-resident. It just takes $150, and you get a nice card in 2 weeks. And then you can operate on our chain. You can do all the operations, and you can also become a nominator. But if you want to become a citizen, you have to either more substantially contribute financially, or there is also a great option, 25-day settlement program, which I think it's pretty cool, because now you can, even if you don't have any money, just spend 25 days in Liberland, help us to build, be present there, test our very exciting new technologies like Uberization of police. Anybody that comes to Liberland, and if they're e-residents, they can actually apply for the police job, and they can watch their neighborhood, or they can, we used it as actually completely generalized Uber. So all the jobs that are in Liberland, be it rides, be it exchange of crypto into fiat, be it building a wall, everything is now on this mobile app. So the last build, I would say, is 80% finished. So people, when they come to Liberland, they can immediately see what needs to be done, and they can take part in auctions, which also is, I think, pretty cool, because it's helped us to save the problem of tendering. The government always usually gets very bad price, and it takes very long when it does something. But in Liberland, we have an open tender for all citizens and e-residents that they can take part of. And if we are actually dividing big projects into smaller tasks as well, so we should be getting a good, reasonable price at a reasonable pace.
Well, that's amazing. And, and just to break that out of the box for everybody a little bit. So not only is it one of the newest nations in the world, maybe the newest nation in the world, one of for sure, They are one of, if not the newest nation that's putting everything on the blockchain possible, right? So maybe talk a little bit about that. And then is it a free zone? I know we have a free zone, right? There on the border. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have a free zone that we are quite friendly with, and that is right next to Liberland in Serbia. So that's where we're placing businesses. Just last week, we had yet another Italian business moving its factory over there. But Liberland itself, I'm kind of excited that despite Croatia putting up borders, or like actually thanks, we have to be thankful to Croatia for putting up borders. So when you go to Liberland, you definitely need an ID and passport. And despite making it quite difficult, for example, for Europeans to stay more than 7 days because of their, I would say, activities against the quick development of Liberland, but also I understand their position. Like they really want only people from Schengen to come down and build Liberland at this stage. So it's not a big, I would say, mess in the sense that everybody from all around the world comes down and takes part. So because of that, mostly Europeans are being there and settling Liberland right now. So we don't have customs. If you're taking something from Croatia to Liberland and from Liberland to Croatia, there is no custom officer, which is quite useful. We don't have to deal with paying any duties to them.
Amazing. Well, I know it's been that has been a relationship that has taken a lot of diplomacy, right, with the Croatians.
Yeah. Well, I would say yes, quite a bit of diplomacy, but mostly action. We don't. We would like to negotiate, but if the other party doesn't want to negotiate, we just take action. So we've been. I think that the most important elements for opening the borders last year were the fact that Nico Milana made this video which has now more than 10 million views. If you put Nico Liberland, it's a very funny video, 30 minutes. You will really enjoy it. How he was traveling to Liberland and ultimately stick the flag in the middle despite all the resistance. And then I met the president of Croatia. That was very important as well. We had a friendly meeting, and he is now about to become prime minister. So I hope that could change our situation in Croatia quite a bit. And also the fact that Croatia became part of Schengen. They have partially lost their sovereignty over their borders. They were watched by EU what they're doing on the borders. They could no longer throw people into jail just for going to Liberland, which was another important element. So right now the access to Liberland is open. It's more open for Schengen people than non-Schengen people. That mean EU than non-EU people, but everybody from around the world can visit for 7 days. Yet they have to face the fact that they get a special paper that they're banned from EU for 30 to 90 days if they're from non-Schengen country. But they also get a 7-day stay permit from this very same institution. So yes, it's possible people can come and help build Liberland right now.
Well, that is amazing. And so you can come, you can help build Liberland. There's also the investment, this is as one of the world's first or newest nations, also the opportunity to do things here, to invest, to be part of it is all there. And in a time when the world really needs more freedom, you are leading the way. President Witt, it is always a pleasure to have you on. I really look forward to seeing you in person here in Washington, D.C. tomorrow, and continuing to help push.
Let me just mention one thing, Bruce. We are actually also finally being traded. The whole Liberland is on exchanges. We've got 2 tokens. One is called Liberland Dollar, and the other one is called Liberland Merit. So it's quite exciting to see that there is a value already to our nation, and merits are for the management of the country, and dollars are literally the currency. So the Liberland dollars are being traded already on multiple exchanges, and they're also going to MEXC and Bybit very soon. So a BitBuy. So that's going to be very exciting next couple of weeks.
Amazing. Are you going to be in Consensus in Austin?
Probably yes. We will see.
We're planning on doing one of our Washington Elite Galas, so look forward to seeing you there. I know one of the MEXC representatives registered overnight. It just popped up at me. So amazing. Well, I really look forward to seeing you. It's always a pleasure, guys. Make sure to get some merits and get some Liberland dollars. That's one way that you can easily support what's going on. Not financial advice and all that jazz I'm supposed to say. but as well, reach out. And if you're in Washington, D.C., or you're around here, come to the Future of Governance and Law. It's going to be right here in Washington, D.C. You can just Google it, Future of Governance and Law, or GBA, Global Government Blockchain Association. Use Impact Money if you want to use a discount code there, and we look forward to seeing you. President Vitt, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's
Thank
early.
you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Cheers. All right, we're going to move on right here to the great Matt Dixon. Matt, I was actually trying to bring you on while we were still there, but he hopped off because I know you know President Vitt as well. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. That's interesting stuff. Very exciting developments there. So,
right? I mean, things are moving. It has taken a while, but things are really moving there, and that's exciting. So we're going to be with him. You know, the Future of Money Governance and Law, I think, is obviously a great event, and I'm super excited for it. And he's going to be here, and it's going to be great. They're actually having a reception at, I don't know if I'm supposed to say where. You can, if you want to come, just let me know. But yeah, so exciting stuff.
What are the major goals and objectives of Liberland?
The major goals and objectives, that would have been a great question. I should have brought you on during the interview. I think the major goals, I mean, if I was to answer it, and of course I have been a part and parcel of the country since really the early days, is freedom. It's freedom from the central banks, freedom from taxation. It's freedom to do what you want, and even the legal framework is all on the blockchain, and every Liberlander who owns merits gets a say, and it's freedom.
So maybe this could be a haven for a central point. I say central point for crypto.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. You heard him talk about exchanging it, no tax there and stuff like that. Quite interesting. Of course, we could have done a whole show with them. We're actually a little bit in between here. We also have Sue. Let me just, I don't want to mess up his name here. Sue, the CEO of Coins.ph and Coins XYZ, who's going to join at the bottom of the show. I just wanted to. I knew
so that's at about 45. Is it in about 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay,
more like 20,
cool.
but yeah.
Okay. Cool. So we got CZ's. Did you see that yesterday?
I mean, what a breath of relief. I mean, I know, man, it sucks. It's got to be hard to go in there for 4 months, but man, that's 4 months. You can really set your mind to, okay, 4 months and I'll be out of here. I missed the summer of my life. But
did you see his picture? I was trying to show it, but it's not showing properly. The 4 fingers. This was ages ago, and he was talking about this 4. This was a long, long time ago. And It's just interesting that it came in 4 months in prison.
I did see the picture. I did see. They're saying, of course, I mean, the guy's a legend, so of course everyone's like, you called it. And he's like, 4, that was a relief. Of course, a bit of a crazy day. I'm sure you saw what was going on with Roger Ver. Roger Ver picked up in Spain for tax evasion or whatever. Now, the interesting part about this is this is really scary stuff here, because Roger Ver renounced his U.S. citizenship in 2014.
Yeah,
and
I know.
What they're saying that he did was in 2017. The taxable event was in 2017. He wasn't even a United States citizen anymore, and they arrested him in Spain yesterday, and most certainly are going to extradite him over here. And this is scary.
It's shocking the reach they have, but the way they can pick and choose. I mean, as I said on my X post, all of these bankers and corrupt people and corrupt agencies, nothing happened in 2008, 2009, which almost completely crashed the financial world. And yet they're going after these people. It's absolute hypocrisy. We need to be up in arms about it. It's terrible. And no wonder the likes of Liberland are sprouting up because of this abuse of power.
Yes.
Yeah,
no doubt.
We'll jump in. I'll just let me just jump in. There's been some massive movements on the markets, hasn't there?
Yeah, there sure has. Man, blood red, man. It's just bleeding. I do think it's probably going to bounce. It will bounce. Markets don't go just up or just down, folks. So it will bounce.
So we've got some obviously limited time, so I'll just jump in straight away. Trust you can see my Bitcoin chart.
Let me add it here to the stage. Yes.
So here's Bitcoin right from the beginning when it costs next to nothing. Near the beginning anyway, when it costs next to nothing. I've got it labeled as potentially wave 1 up, 2 down. It could be 3, 4, 5, and then we get an ABC down. Basically, we've got a movement up, and I think we're correcting to the downside. It's quite interesting looking at the Fibonacci extensions. If this is an ABC, then even so, with just a C wave higher after this current correction, we'd still expect about 84,000. And there's loads of Fibonacci extensions that actually just zone in on this 84,000 sort of area. That is going to be a really key area. And I know a lot of people have talked about Bitcoin going to, Standard Banks suggested 150K this year. It's still completely possible. But there's going to be some serious resistance overhead if we push out of this correction that we're undergoing at the moment. And this correction is almost entirely due to the Fed coming up with their interest rate decision, because their hands are a bit tied, as we've said, and they're going to potentially turn hawkish. Again, we mentioned this yesterday, and we'll just flip through a few of the cryptocurrencies to see what was expected, what we expect. So this is very much the long-term view on Bitcoin, and I just wanted to zoom right out to show us where potentially we're going. I do think that we're doing some kind of WXY correction to the downside, and there's a target zone we've got here for Bitcoin, somewhere between 51 and 54,000. We don't have to reach there, but that would be an ideal potential target for Bitcoin before we bounce again to the upside. But at the moment, the impulsive direction definitely appears to be still to the upside, despite this correction. But shorter term, and I will jump around a bit. So shorter term, I'll go to the daily. We can actually see this is the sideways channel we had. And you see so far we've clearly broken that downward channel. Quite interestingly, the bottom support of the channel was almost exactly on the 100-day moving average, which is quite a key level. And the fact that we broke that, let's see how the day finishes. But it looks as though we're going to head towards this target zone that I've got shown by these boundaries, the dotted lines here, for potentially completion of a WXY. It still looks very corrective, even though we're heading down what appears to be really sharply. In crypto terms, it's nothing that major at the moment. So let's hope it stays that way, that this is just a WXY, normal and healthy correction, and then hopefully following it, we'll get a bounce to the upside. But the problem is, for those people who are leveraged, an awful lot of people, many millions and millions will have been wiped out with this move down, because we're all expecting something a bit more positive. I'll just show you very quickly. This is the ETF, showing the ETF flows when the ETF was launched, the price of Bitcoin, what's happened to the price of Bitcoin. But we can see actually the ETF flows have been negative now for a few days. And so there's actually more coming out than going into ETFs right now. But overall, the overall impact has still been extremely positive because of the ETFs. But having said that, the Hong Kong ETFs have been a bit of a damp squib, and we expected that. They're quite, expenses are quite high. There's still not the ability for the Chinese to go in, even though it's in Hong Kong, they still can't move their money. So,
oh wow,
not a lot of demand for those Hong Kong ETFs at the moment. Bit of a disappointment, but actually it was expected. And I think most serious people in the market knew there wasn't going to be much support from there. But I still think that the fundamental backdrop, foundation for Bitcoin is still very, very strong. And this, to me, just still looks like a pretty normal but healthy correction. So that's Bitcoin. Let me move around. Where to next? I mean, well, actually, I'll move down to the bottom, because obviously it's interest rate day today, isn't it? So
it sure is, man. The FOMC is having their meeting, and everybody is just, the jitters are felt from Washington D.C. to Hong Kong.
Yeah, and I've said that even though there's concerns about potential stagflation, which is actually stagnant growth with inflation, and that's kind of the scenario that's beginning to be talked about more and more now, because we are still seeing really sticky, stubborn, high inflation, well above that target rate but we're also seeing declining growth, and we saw that with the GDP figures. So disappointing, way below expectations of virtually any analyst at all. So the growth is definitely showing some signs of slowing in the US, but it's still nowhere near as bad as it was in the early 70s. And that was the last period of serious stagflation. So I don't think that's on the cards at the moment. And barring any big geopolitical issues, I think that inflation will not be a major issue moving forward. And I think it is and will be coming back under control at some point. So we can see here the inflation rate has dropped an awful lot because of what the Fed has done with raising rates the way they did. And yes, they've stalled the rate cycle at the moment, and we're seeing perhaps a little bit of a tiny bounce. But if you look at it in context, the actual inflation bounce is actually reasonably modest, and I actually expect the downside to continue. And this is what I've said, the future of negative interest rates and QE, and that's what I believe the future does hold, because I still believe that the US and the world are headed for recession. And just like we had in the financial crisis 2008, we saw a big fall off in inflation. Same we saw with COVID, and then we got all the money printing following each of those, which pushed the inflation higher. But now, again, we've actually been withdrawing the money printing. Effectively, QE has been diminished, and that's why we're seeing inflation falling. There's less money available in the system. So that process will probably continue for the time being, and we will see in the future, unfortunately, recession. But it's a kind of normal cycle of things, I guess. But we're going to see recession, a real slowing down of the economy, and the Fed will want to stimulate the economy in the future. This is why I actually think the calls for a really hawkish statement tonight are probably a little bit overdone. Let's see what they come out with. It's 10 o'clock Dubai time. 10:30 is the press conference, Dubai time. It's going to be worth listening into, because I think we may get slightly less hawkishness than expected. And so that would mean that Bitcoin and all these sell-offs may have been a little bit overdone. But let's see. We need to just actually wait and see what the figures and data and commentary tells us. But my expectation is, as I say, we're going to see more downside there. But interestingly, if we see downside on inflation, let's just have a look where we are, because we talked a lot recently about dollar index. So I'll open that one out, and we'll go to daily on dollar index to see where we're at. And you'll actually see that we're right heading for the target that we anticipated. Maybe I'll go for the 4. I suppose it's okay here on daily. So we anticipated all the way from down here. I said we're probably going to get another push because we didn't quite achieve the target. The target was, we measured this wave from the bottom to top here, then we transposed it to here where I've got fib A, and then 100% is actually here. And it's also 100% of this move here, the A wave transposed to the B wave. So both of them coincide precisely on this level of 106.67. Right now, we're 106.29, 106.30-ish. We did go a little bit higher today, went to 106.47 today. So we're still a little bit shy of that target overhead. But that has been my expectation for some time, that we'd probably reach there on dollar index. So that's why I said we may get a little bit more crypto Bitcoin downside as we saw a little bit more dollar strength, and that's precisely what we've seen. You can see here this big green candle that we had, and we were pushing higher again this morning. This was dollar strength, so money coming out of risk assets into safe haven of dollar treasuries, bonds effectively. So when it flows there for safe haven to get some real return without long-term risk to capital, that's where money was going. That's why the dollar has bounced so strongly here. And we may even see a little bit more of that, especially if we see hawkish Fed, which means more money will flow out of risk assets. So the bottom may not quite be in, but this is going to be a serious overhead resistance for the US dollar. And hopefully the US dollar will then turn to the downside, and we'll start to see that weakness, which anticipates a slowing US economy moving forward. And if that's the case, it's probably going to be good for risk assets, Bitcoin, and that's what could propel Bitcoin to a new all-time high. And as I say, next target, perhaps 84,000 for Bitcoin. So that's dollar index. We're seeing the usual, the gold, again, because we're talking, we've said sometime, actually it's headed a little bit lower here. The C wave, we can perhaps move to here. So we've got an ABC. Again, if we looked at it on shorter time frame, and I will just do that, I think, to see if we can see a little bit more clearly the internal waves within this correction. You still can't see it. I probably need to go shorter, but I don't want to waste time on the show. But I think they've got 5 waves down here, which is some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't see it on this scale. I will probably just go one more zoom out on the time frame just to see if we can see it there. You still can't see that clearly. But I do think we've got a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. That's perfectly reasonable. Wave 1 isn't overlapped by the wave 4 up here. So that's perfectly reasonable. If you can just about see that wick down there, that's a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. That makes up an A wave. That's 5 waves. Then we get a 3-wave move up, down, and up. So that's actually a WXY, which makes the B wave. So we have A, B, and then 5 waves down for C. And that's precisely what we're seeing here. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4. And I think we're still working on the 5th wave down, probably a little bit lower to go on gold before we then see substantially more upside. But the takeaway we need from this is that this is an ABC correction from the top. Correction means it's against the trend. So whilst we may have a touch lower to go on gold, maybe we're very, very close, I think, to a turning point. And because it's corrective, the impulsive direction is to the upside. It means we should see new all-time highs in the reasonably near future on gold. So that would tell us that maybe inflation is still going to remain sticky for a while at least, anyway. Sorry, we've done DXY, haven't we? I mean, let's just jump into Solana. That's taken a serious dump to the downside, but again, it's pretty much in line with our expectation. Remember, we said we have 5 waves yesterday. If we broke that low there, where you can see this morning, we broke that low. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the wave 4 is made up of 3 waves. So yeah, it's really, really good waveform here. This is kind of what you'd expect. And I think now that we've seen 5 waves down, I think we're probably going to see 3 waves up and then a further 5 waves down before we then push towards some serious more upside. Unless we could count this as an A to here, this would be B and then some kind of C wave down. That's still possible. But I don't think we're done on the upside yet for Solana. It's just that it's one of those volatile assets that's really benefited with the bull run that we had. And, you know, the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
It was at $11, you know, it was at a few months ago. So, yeah, that's
let's just keep it in context.
Let's
keep it in context. It was actually a few months back. I mean, let's go. It was actually, I remember it at $8. I was trading it around that level.
Yep.
Let's go to daily, probably will show us. And we'll see, you can see it here. Yeah, it's $8. It's actually got $9 there, but I remember it around that level. And I traded it. I didn't think it was going to go this high, but we've not yet achieved the previous all-time high of around $260. And I think that challenging that is still on the cards. And we've had this wave count around for some time, where basically we've just achieved a big blue wave 3. We're working on potentially a big wave 4, which normally goes into territory of the previous wave 4 of lesser degree. That would be around this sort of level. And I have said that we're potentially expecting quite a bit lower before we push higher again. So we could get ABC to this sort of territory around here, and then we should push to the new all-time highs, which would be 260 and beyond. But we may be suffering a little bit more pain in the meantime. And even Ethereum has taken a bit of a turn, down 4%. So if you look at the actual returns, there's some serious pain in the market today. Tesla is, obviously a, big US stock, but it's I think that's yesterday's, or it could be the futures, but down sharply anyway. But looking at the cryptos, they're all down sharply. The memes, of course, actually not altogether down more than the rest. So, for example, Booker memes is only down 1.43%, which is not bad. But we're seeing Doge down now at 12 cents. I mean, it's really taken a back.
I know. It's all I can do to not enter into a 10x long.
Well, remember you said that maybe, and we've even got the line here, maybe
Yeah.
around the $10-11 mark is the target.
10, 11 cents.
So,
Yep.
so we mentioned it on the show in advance. So not to jump in too early. This is the sort of target area around here that we should be thinking of dipping your toes, maybe a bit of dollar cost averaging. But this was expected. You know, we did see this.
As the market turns, this asset, the doggy coin, the Doge coin, one of the original meme coin, one of the favorite meme coins of all time, to bounce back up to 20 cents with a man like Elon going on his Twitter and tweeting the dog every once in a while, it's like easy.
Yeah. So we're seeing, as I say, most of the tokens taking about a 4 or 5% dump, between 3-5% dump. Doggy there, 6.5%, but it is obviously one of those more volatile tokens. And we came from 20 down to 12, and as Bruce says, we could easily see it bounce back to the upside. We are seeing a lot of negativity here, S&P 500, and as I said, potentially we could have seen the all-time high, but I actually think this is probably just part of a correction. And like the other cryptos we looked at, this could be an A wave, a B wave. We could still get a C wave down before we push again to new high. And as I said, the target overhead, my favorite target is 5379, which I got here marked by the red line. So I don't think that the market has moved, has turned, or has pivoted really from being in a bull market to a bearish phase. I don't think that's happened just yet. I hope not anyway. But we are seeing some serious downside. The best token of all today, amongst all the cryptos that I can see, believe it or not, is eBay, which is down 0.2%. So one of the better performers of the day, probably the best performer of the day. But there's not a lot of liquidity there. But knowing everything that's going on in the background with it, I think it's going to be one that really benefits. But we need the market to turn, and then all those positive developments will come out and shine forth. So hopefully we'll see some good price action there in the future. And all the usual tokens, all down. But Ethereum, I just wanted to touch on Ethereum again. We thought we completed an ABC, but again, we've actually gone below that third wave there. So potentially now this is looking a little bit more negative. So there is still potential for more downside. But overall, we're still seeing the main impulsive direction to the upside. And this appears to be corrected because this wave up here overlaps the first wave down. So it's likely telling us that this is just a correction because you don't get overlap with impulsive waves. All these movements up, each time you get a pullback, it doesn't overlap the previous. So you're getting higher highs and higher lows on the way up. But here, we're not getting lower lows and lower highs all the time because this, for example, isn't a lower high because basically that's just the definition of a trend. So in other words, the trend is still up, the trend is not down at the moment. So that's the situation. So in general, I'm still actually, particularly Bitcoin, I'm still very, very bullish on Bitcoin. And I think this is just, as I say, a normal, healthy, but painful correction to the downside.
Agreed.
And we're seeing that pretty well across the board. So I don't want to step into the time of your next guest, Bruce. I'm aware of that. There's so much more we could talk about, but happy to hand over.
Amazing. Yes. And we will pick up tomorrow again. We have with us here, and thank you, Matt, always insightful and wonderful and great to have you on. It is absolutely for sure. I have with us here, I'm bringing him on. He's entering now with the audio only, and you can stay or go, whatever you'd like. Oh, here he is. Zao. Is it Zao? Is that the correct way to pronounce it?
Zo, yeah. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Zo, he's the CEO of Coins.ph and Coins XYZ. Where are you joining from,
I'm joining you guys from Singapore right now.
Nice. All right. Well, awesome. I know you are involved with the Cryptoverse Summit there in Mauritius. We're also a partner there. And I believe you were involved in Binance and a couple other things. So tell me a little bit about how you got to a place where you have these Coins.ph and Coins.xyz. Introduce yourself to our TV audience.
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, so my name is Wei. I'm currently the CEO for Coins. We run the largest licensed wallet and exchange, crypto wallet and exchange in the Philippines. We're fully licensed by the central bank there, and then we're about 16, 17 million registered users on the platform. The company was founded in 2015, 16, and then I took over both from an ownership perspective and management perspective in 2022 when I acquired the business along with with the support of a private equity fund. And then and I think my background is a little bit unique in that I was actually the CFO at Binance for about 3+ years, from 2018 all the way to 2021. So
Wow.
so sort of really witnessed was basically had a front row active seat in terms of scaling that business, and basically saw sort of the adoption of crypto. I think saw a much faster adoption of crypto in what I call the global south,
Mhm.
and of which I think is actually super interesting because this is where real use cases get built. Like if you look at the Philippines, we basically have the largest Web3 gaming audience globally, right? Pretty much, we support on Coins, we support a lot of the gaming chains. We have a lot of gaming tokens.
Yep.
Um, because it's traded against local currency pesos. So a lot of the users, once they earn the tokens, they can actually, sell them directly on our platform and basically, make a living that way. And I think what's really unique about our opportunity here is at the beginning of around end of last year, we got our sort of VASP license in Mauritius, which is
Mhm.
kind of like comparatively, it's kind of like the Switzerland or Singapore of Africa, which is actually a very critical sort of financial center in terms of investing in and out of Africa. And it's a really important gateway for us because I think we really see Africa as sort of the next um, you know, next continent, right? In terms of coming online, not just internet wise, but also coming online directly. I think rather than into banks, but actually coming online directly into crypto. And I think that's something super unique, just because that was something that I kind of witnessed in the Philippines in terms of like, before COVID in 2020, Philippines was like 50% of the population was actually unbanked.
Yep.
But then during COVID, with the rise of sort of e-wallets, with ourselves like Coins, and then also with Gcash, Philippines got to around 70%, sort of 70%, 80% of the population are bank, not with bank
Wow.
accounts, but actually with e-wallets,
Uh-huh.
right? So and then that took place, the COVID drove a lot of that. But I sort of see even in Africa now, I think I see basically the population there of a plus billion. Half of them are under the age of 30, all super technology savvy. I think rather than sort of e-wallets, I actually see them coming online actually directly into crypto wallets.
Yep.
But and I think that just provides I think access to a global financial network in crypto that has never really existed before. And I think for us, it's really important for me, for Coins, it's really important to sort of set things up the right way from a sort of a compliance and regulatory perspective, so that
Mhm.
we can actually start delivering some of these, critical, financial services. And one of the things that we got the license for in Mauritius is actually an ICO license.
Okay.
So we can actually help projects to advise them on their ICO, and that's sort of like one of the first use cases of major use cases of crypto, which is basically fundraising on blockchain, right? And yeah,
One of the most
yeah,
important, right?
yeah. Yeah, we're still witnessing that today, right? I mean, we still, right? And then because I think right now, I mean, if anybody has sort of been investing as I have in the last 5 years, you basically see completely sort of shifting away from using basically like companies instead of to projects, right? Was it you're investing into token contracts rather than into sort of like physical equity contracts. You're investing into projects all over the world vis-a-vis just sort of say U.S. companies or Hong Kong companies, right? And then you're investing in entrepreneurs that are highly mobile rather than sort of fixed in one place.
Yeah.
So I just think like there's a lot of these things are aligning, and then a lot of these things I think are aligning. I think much more so for the global south, just given that there's less what I call less of like sort of like incumbents sort of preventing a lot of these things, a lot of the innovation from happening, and you're getting basically real world adoption and use cases. So yeah, that
Pretty.
was a little bit long-winded on the introduction side, but yeah.
No, it's great. It's
Yeah.
always great to talk to people whose minds work really fast, which obviously yours does. It makes everything much more interesting. So there's a lot, over 1 million users. Did you say 1.6 was the million users?
For Coins? Yeah, for
Yeah.
coins, we have we have about 15 million registered users.
15. Okay, I thought there might have been
15, yeah.
another zero on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that's quite a base, and you've been
Mm-hmm.
instrumental in getting a lot of these people to having banking access in the global south, as you call it. Rich history with Binance, unbelievable to be the CFO during those years. CZ, of course, that's kind of front and center at the moment. With yesterday, I was really happy that it was not that long. Of course, they were looking for longer. The philanthropic work he's done has been absolutely amazing. We helped out with some of that in years past, so I do know him not as well as you at all, but he's done a lot of great things for the space. So you're licensed in Singapore as well as Mauritius?
No, just in the Philippines and Mauritius.
Okay. In the Philippines and Mauritius. Now, Mauritius appears to be setting itself up as the quite possibly the banking capital of Africa. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it kind of is like it is basically a major financial hub for Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa. And sort of like, it's the highest GDP per capita country in Africa. And I think the history of the company sort of lends to it quite well, in that it actually also acts as a in addition to sort of act as a financial center, it actually also acts as a trading hub. There's a lot of investments from India that goes into Africa are done via Mauritius. So it's actually a very critical bridge, I think, between India, the subcontinent of India, vis-a-vis sort of the sub-Saharan Africa. And I think more importantly, it's got a very rich history of sort of doing offshore, providing sort of like funding and banking. So I call it kind of like the Switzerland of Africa, or Singapore of Africa, sort of like its role for the region.
Well, that is interesting. We we watched the press conference as well. I know that was talked about multiple times. So it's interesting that you are really plugging into that and using that as your global base. So what are your plans for expansion, like over the next year or two?
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to release. So this is where the Coins XYZ come in. This is a site that we want to launch out of the Mauritius sort of regulation, and then that is a site that we want to launch, globally, and have primarily to sort of help to bring projects that are sort of from Africa to get their tokens listed on our exchange, and to basically get investors have early access to some of these token projects. And I think it's really important to provide support. I think in a real way, right? Like there's no better way to sort of providing support than to basically providing funding to entrepreneurs. I think especially within our space, which has kind of been under assault, I think, from a global regulatory perspective, for the last couple of years now. So
yeah, no doubt about it.
And one of the key things that a lot of people ask is like, oh, you have no use case. Well, but I'm just like, hey, let's build them, right? I mean, you already have in the Philippines, we're seeing a lot of it, especially in terms of remittance, right? We're working very closely with Circle's USDC. We have PayPal's PYUSD, and we also have Tether's USDT. And then, we have a really exciting news to be announced, I think, next week. But we believe that, stable coins will be the next critical infrastructure for global remittance. Right. Okay. So, and we're seeing that today in our business, right? In terms of helping a lot of the existing remittance companies, both retail, and sort of like both companies and retail, to be able to use stable coins to send money into the Philippines, and then we can actually off-ramp them into local pesos through coins. So.
Amazing. Are you planning on coming to Consensus in Austin?
I'm going to the Bitcoin conference in Nashville.
You are coming to Nashville?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I actually I grew up in the US, right? So
it's funny you talk internationally these days, and everybody.
Yeah, my folks.
Okay.
Yeah, my folks live in Nashville. Like, I actually grew up in the South in the US.
That's awesome. Yeah, you speak perfect English. Obviously, I would. It's not even a point of mentioning that you speak perfect English because it's so perfect. That's amazing. Nashville's fun city. So you'll be here for Bitcoin.
I think it's going to be an awesome conference. It's
of course
going to
it
be.
is.
Yeah. No, because I think right now, like, one of the one of the cool products that you talked about is one of the products we're going to roll out on the Coins platform is that we will be supporting the Room protocol.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I'm not sure if you heard about
major.
it. Yeah, like the Room. Yeah, Room Pro. I think there's a ton of potential there. In terms
course.
of sort of like you're actually seeing innovation happening on Bitcoin now, right? Which is quite
Right.
refreshing.
Yeah.
Super refreshing.
It's like life
for us
changing.
to
Let's
see.
face it.
Yeah. I think so, right? It's life changing for now, but but it'll be creating some life changing wealth hopefully in the next couple of months.
Yes, I think it will. He's actually the founder there is one of the speakers at Consensus, the Runes. So we should coordinate a bit as well. We're
sure.
planning some events, and then we can set up some things for Nashville as well. We're also a partner for Bitcoin Nashville, as well as Bitcoin Hong Kong, which is in about 10 days
next week.
Yeah,
I'll be there as well.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Awesome.
I'm tracking it. We'll see. It's far. Okay. It's so far. You know how it is.
It'll be. I think it'll be an exciting event.
Of course, it will be.
Especially with like the launch of the ETF in Hong Kong. I think people there are going to get pretty excited.
Good. Well, amazing. Well, I really, it's been great to get to know you. I look forward to get to know you more and working together. If you'd like to come on as well for the big news next week, reach out. We'd love to have you on. And
sure, we'll do so.
And talk about that. What's the social media website? How do people find you guys?
Just CoinsPH on social media. CoinspH is the Twitter handle. And then my Twitter handle is the Dao of Wei, TheDaoofWei. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, real pleasure to have you on, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Cheers. All right, folks. Well, we've done it again. Another great show. It was fast and furious today. Of course, with President Vitt. And of course, Matt, I just pulled you on here, Matt, to finish up. Just if you hear us, it's a great interview with Wei, huh? That's pretty interesting what he has going on.
Yeah, very interesting. So I'll look into the coins.ph and coinsxyz, or Z as you call it.
Yeah.
So I'll look into that. Sounds really interesting, and obviously, guy with a great pedigree. So,
whoa, CFO, the CFO of Binance for 3 years.
I know.
Whew.
So, serious.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Matt. Guys, we'll be back on TV in about 5 hours here, and we will see you all tomorrow morning as well. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bruce. Bye for now. Look forward to tonight's FOMC.
We'll be watching
tomorrow.
Fingers crossed. Cheers.